In this lesson about digital sculpting and character design in Blender, we're gonna proceed with our virtual studio here. We're gonna set up the work with some references. So this is a really important part, I believe, of your job, of your process, because you need to understand what you want to create. So you need to start with some references, perhaps, or you can just be creative and just create everything on the fly. But the web will help you, giving you a lot of references, a lot of basic models for you to use. If you don't wanna start from zero, you wanna start with something. You can import models, but you can also import them to study them for using them as a reference. You can use 2D sketches, 2D images as a reference, like this one here, or you can use 3D models, which could be more realistic or less realistic. And you can import them from photogrammetry, which means that the models will be created using pictures, using a smartphone and creating a video, or they can be imported as 3D models that others have been modeled from scratch. So you can see the difference right away between the photogrammetry results that usually results in a really complex net of triangles. So this is the topology, the structure, which is not really good when you need to work in sculpting, but can be used if you want as a reference, but also, again, to sculpt on top of that. And this one here is a much more neat and clean structure. So this is like a standard model that you would probably create starting from 3D modeling and then proceed into sculpting. So we're gonna see how to do that from zero later on. In this video, we're gonna concentrate again on your Visual Studio, on your workspace, so that you can help yourself in the process. So in the previous video, we talked about how to set up the lighting, how to set up matte caps, how to set up the view if you want better results, and if you want to use some effects that will help you to concentrate on what you're doing. And in this video, we're going to see again how to import and how we can use these references. Also, how we can fix problems that could come from the import phase. So we are still in an introductory phase, essentially. So in the previous videos, we used this model right here to deform it, and we talk about the textures, which also have the importance. We also talk about the number of polygons. Now, don't be afraid of using a lot of polygons, because lately, the latest technologies, you can see, for example, in Unreal Engine 5, can use a really high number of polygons, thanks again to the system. But everything is explained if you want if you want to check it out in the Unreal Engine 5 course. So just to tell you that things are much easier these days than like a few years ago. Now, I'm going to show you some websites where you can get 3D models and different types of 3D models, essentially. This one here is called Polycam. So with Polycam, you can download the 3D models that have been created using photogrammetry. And you can also do it yourself. So if you have a smartphone, you can just take pictures or a video of an object that you have in your home, and it's going to be reproduced in 3D. And in the channel, you'll find video guides about Polycam. So if you want to discover more, again, search in the channel or write in the comments for assistance and like general questions. So you can see here there are a lot of infos about photogrammetry, and also there is a part of the website where you can get free 3D models. So you can click here, free 3D models, and if you're looking for something in particular, for example, we are talking about character design and sculpting, so probably I would go for statues. So this is something that can also help me not only to import something that I can use, but also to study how an animal is made, or a creature, or a human. So if I say, for example, here, statue woman, I can see how these sculpture have been made. Now, some sculpture are more realistic, some less realistic. This is also something that we saw in other situation where we can use like more realistic references or something more cartoonish. Now, for this example, I've chosen this one here, So if you want to download it, you need to create an account. Once you have the account, you logged in, and you save this into your folder so that you can download it and use it. So you can see this is a really realistic but still looking like a sculpture model. It looks like a mud model, or like probably something made with the stone, or perhaps also like with some metal. So you can use this or any other if you want. Now, the way you can download this and use it is explained in another video, so I'm not gonna spend too much time talking about this. Just know that you can get photogrammetry 3D models in general. So I'm gonna use this one here just as an example. So you can also create your own. Everything is explained again in other video guides, and you also have others. Other sculpture like this one here looks really interesting, but it's way less realistic. It's more like cartoonish, in my opinion. But of course, it's going to be probably something really old from Spartans or things like that. But again, these are useful to study helmets and apparel also, like body armor, things like that. So everything is useful to learn and to become better and better. This one here, I've chosen this one. And again, just looking the statues in Polycam. This one here is really interesting because there is also a characterization. There is something in these sculptures that is telling me more about the personality of the character. So this is what we also talked about earlier. So when you create a character, you must also give in some personality, something extra. And you can use the apparel, you can use accessories, shoes, the hat. You can, of course, use just the face and the expressions and everything. So you must tell a story. If you tell a story, I think that your models will be more interesting to start with. So this is one website. The other really famous one is Sketchfab. Now here also you could find photogrammetry models, or in general you can just look for, let's look for 3D characters, for example. So we want to know more about 3D characters, and you can see here that you have a lot of them. Some of them are cartoonish, some of them are more realistic. So depending on what you have in mind, what you want to do, you can study more one particular style or another, or an animal or a human, or whatever you want to do it. Now, also, we created video guides dedicated to Sketchfab. We dedicated video guides on how to download 3D models, also how you can upload. So when you finish your model, you can also upload it, you can share it, and you can sell it if you want. So this is good for downloading, uploading, buying, selling, and other stuff. Now, I've chosen this one here, and you can see here there the author down there. So you find all the information right here. Now remember that you need to create an account here also if you want to download this model. So you can see you need to log in and everything. Now what's interesting about Sketchfab is also the extra tools. So for example, I have here the model inspector, and if I choose wireframe, it's going to show me the model. So here I can see like the overall geometry. If I click here, I can already see in preview the geometry that I'm going to use. And you can see that this will look really nice and clean and neat, really easy to use if I want to sculpt here, or if I want to model, if I want to like move polygons around. It's going to be definitely better than using a really complex triangulated mesh from photogrammetry. And this is what your objective should be if you want to do like a character, is to go from a simple sphere or a simple cube and arrive here. And there are many ways to do that, which we're gonna discover later. Now, you can also use 2D references, not only 3D. So for example, character sketches could be good. So you can start with your sketch. You can create your own sketch if you want. And you can create 2D references or get pictures, photographs, not only sketches from the web. Now, if you find frontal and side views and top views, this will be better, so you can be more precise when you will create your character. You can see how many characters are already there if you want to take inspiration, if you want to get it from the web, or you can just, create your own. Now, to do that, you can use Photoshop, but there are also like open source application like GIMP or Krita or Canva and Pixar also, which are all running in a web browser. So if you don't want to download and install any application, you can just use Pixar or Canva. You can use them in the web browser. If you want something more, you can use Krita. It's really popular, really cool, and you will find also Videocourse in Krita in a channel, or GIMP as well, and so on. Now, another suggestion I want to give you is you can also use AI image generators. So if you're not particularly creative and you don't want to spend time like creating something, you can take inspiration from artificial intelligence generators. So they will help you to generate images and characters, for example, just by typing some words. So for example, you can type knight and red, armor, horn, whatever, and it's gonna generate it for you, and you can take inspiration from that, and then you can create your own. And again, I've dedicated other video guides about this, so you can check them in the channel. Now, finally, this is the one that I've chosen. So I looked for character art. You can look for character design, all those terms that we already know from previous lessons, and then you can download this one here. You can see it's free image, public domain that you can use. Now let's get into Blender and see how we can import this stuff. So first of all, I'm gonna move in the layout section because right now I don't really wanna sculpt right away. I wanna import references that I'm gonna use. So this one here, you can see is the image. Now let me just delete this, and I'm going to go essentially to the add, search for image. Now before you do this, make sure that you are on the correct viewport. So if you want to import a front sketch, you're gonna click on the epsilon here. If you want to import a side sketch, you can move into the X. If you want to import a sketch from the top, you can go here with the Z. So in this case, I have kind of a frontal situation, so I'm gonna select the epsilon. And now let's go to add image reference. Otherwise, that's gonna be like rotated in a awkward way. Okay, now you have downloaded the image. You can prepare a folder where you store all your references in 2D, 3D, and so on. And then you can go to load reference image. There you go. Now make sure that it's visible, because this is, if we go here in the outliner, we can see that this one here in particular is stored into an empty object. So if you deactivate it here using the filters, the empty, you will not see it. So make sure that that's activated. Perhaps you mess around here and you don't see it. Don't get like crazy. That's just a quick fix right there. And there you go. This is like the simplest thing you can do. Just import a 2D. And then you can model on the top of that. But we're gonna see that in another video. This is just to use references. So the easiest thing to do is import 2D images just with these few steps. Now let's move on to this other model right here. Now you can see that this contains also bones and things that can help you to rig and animate the character. But right now we don't want to do that. We just need the model. So I will delete here the armature, and you can see that this went down there because it's like losing the bones. The skin is not connected anymore. So let me also delete that. And to import, you first need, of course, to download it and extract it if it's in a folder, in a zipped folder, and then you can go to import. And this one here in particular is FBX. Now we saw how we can import Blender and also GLTF, FBX, and OBJ are pretty popular. So you can definitely use GLTF as well as FBX. So if you have the option, choose FBX, GLTF, or OBJ, which is wavefront OBJ. Now this one here is FBX. So you can see that this is the folder that I have extracted in my Sketchfab folder. So we'll just look for the source, which is gonna be the 3D model, and then import. This one doesn't have textures or materials. And there you go. Now you can see it's pretty big. So sometimes the issue is that the model is too big or that it contains an armature. Well, we don't need the armature. So you can see it's separated from the rest. Let's get rid of that. So if you just delete the armature again, that's gonna get smaller. But sometimes you can adjust it also with the scale tool. Okay, so you can see we scaled up this model and that's fine now. Now this one here is not going to have many issues. If I go now in the modeling, we can see the polygonal structure or topology, and you can see it looks really nice and again clean and neat. So this usually doesn't have nothing to be fixed. So we can just jump to the sculpting. And in the sculpting, again, make sure that you are selecting the mesh. If you're selecting the bones or anything else, it will not be affected by the various brushes. Now, again, we're gonna focus more on the tools of the sculpting tools, and the others later. This is just to show you how to use references. But if I need to sculpt like muscles, I would go like with a pretty big brush here, and then like shift to smooth these out. And you need to balance all of these. Perhaps you need to decrease the strength a little bit when using the smooth. You can also get it from here, smooth. You can see if it's too strong, you can decrease a little bit. And there you go. So you can create like big parts and like the overall model. You can modify the overall model. Now the strength is too low, so let's increase it. So for example, I can like create more muscles here, or like more exposed bones and things like that. Just figure out which one is the correct size of your brush and the correct strength. And if you need to fix something, try to smooth it. Now, this is again just an example, but you can see here with a really big brush, I can enlarge the head, I can enlarge the parts of the body, so I can make this more muscular, stronger, bigger in some parts. There you go. And again, this is just to show you that everything looks fine. Now, if I need to go, of course, into details, I will decrease the size, the strength, and I would go here like really subtle, do really subtle changes. Now, you can see we don't have many polygons here, so we cannot go yet into more details, so we need to increase these later. But using these references, I find it really helpful because I can understand again how things are made in virtual reality, in this virtual world, but also I can take inspiration. I can see how other artists have worked and so on. I can, build on top of these, just spend hours studying how this character was made and so on. Okay, so let's move on to this other one here, photogrammetry. Now, this one, you can see it's a mesh. So I'm gonna delete it first, just to show you how you can re-import it. And that's gonna be GLTF. Now, I really like GLTF because it's open source. You can always find it in Sketchfab. And also, if you use Polycam, this is the only format which is free. The other ones are like for professional use. So you can see also I've created a folder here for Polycam. So I'm just gonna look for that. There you go. And I've downloaded some statues here. So this is the statue of a woman, GLTF. You can see it's actually GLB, but GLB and GLTF kind of, are like the same thing. So let's import it. And now this is, again, too small. So I'm gonna bring it here and I'm gonna scale it. Okay, you can see it's also rotated and you can see some polygons like floating around. That's kind of a issue about photogrammetry. Photogrammetry is not like 100% clean and neat like a model that you would do from scratch, because you're actually, again, taking pictures, and those pictures works like, or a video, and that works like a scanning process where there are a lot of issues that probably you need to fix unless the model is really simple and you have a really strong camera and you take a lot of pictures and so on. But now from this distance, this looks pretty nice and okay. But if I zoom in, you can start to see some of, you know, strange things happening. Now, the first thing you can do actually to fix this is select it, right click, and go to shade smooth. Because if you use shade flat, you will see a mess, especially if you're using extra uh, views parameters like the cavity and this that we set up in the previous video. So make sure that you are right clicking and going to the shade smooth, so it will look nice. And then if I zoom in here, you can see we have issues here. You can see the arm is connected to the body, so I would need to go there and cut that. So it's, you know, usually photogrammetry is really nice, really realistic, but contains a lot of little issues that you need to fix. Now, if I move into the texture mode or material preview mode, you can see it also has the material of the statue. So it's looking gray, it's looking okay. And that's why also it's really nice to use photogrammetry models, because they are complete. They are realistic in their structural form and also in their material and texture. They are perfect. If you look them from a distance, they're perfect. If you go really close, they're not gonna look too great. But you know, if you need to use them like for a render, perhaps you're doing a museum, you need some statues, you can use them definitely. They will be great. Now, what if we want to sculpt on this? So if I move on the sculpting mode again, make sure that you selected the object you want to sculpt on and that you have the sculpt mode activated and the chisel is right there. So right now we can sculpt on this. So let's start to sculpt. And we will start to see something strange here, like seams or carvings. So if I start to sculpt, well, it's pretty fine. But what if I use the smooth again? So hold shift, click and drag. Or what if I use this directly the smooth tool? Now what happens is that this has like, you know, it's like a patchwork, has like seams and things are not really merged together. They are like separated entities. So when I start to grab and move things around, this is going to be an issue. And this is again because of the photogrammetry way to create the models, to generate the models. So let's go back again, and I want to go back to modeling. So now we can see all the different vertices, all the triangles. Now to fix this issue, what we can do is select all the vertices. So make sure you are now in edit mode, that you are selecting the vertices. Go to select all the vertices, right click, go down, merge vertices, use by distance. And now you need to select the correct distance. If you make this too high, so if this parameter is too high, it's going to merge all the polygons into something that, you know, is really not usable at all. So make sure you don't increase that value too much. So again, merge vertices by distance. So we need to get down like to millimeters. So you would go like 0.001. Yeah, that's good. And down there, you will see how many vertices have been removed. Now, removed means that they have been merged together so that you can work with them now. So now let's exit the edit mode. Let's go back to sculpting. We are already in the sculpt mode. And let's just try to sculpt. Now you can see we lost some of the details. Now that depends on the radius, on the distance that you use while you're merging the vertices. But on the other hand, if we start to smooth now, let's smooth really strong, you can see that everything now is fixed and we have a good model to sculpt on. Now that's not so good like this other one right here, which is not coming from photogrammetry, but it's fair enough. We can definitely use it. And if I want to start not from zero, I can just remove all the details here and I can create my character starting from this one here. So I'm just gonna get rid of all the details, and so that it doesn't look like a statue also anymore. It will look more like an actual female model. And then I can continue here to sculpt and create my character. So I either use this as a simple reference just to, get inspired on the pose, on the overall look of the object, or I can definitely use it as a base for my sculpting. So I can come here and just use this. And remember that if you want to move from one to the other, you need to click here and change the subject. Now, before we move on into other lessons, I want to give you some extra tips. Now, the first process from the sketch to the first 3D models that you're going to create is going to be called blockout. So when you block out a character or whatever object, you kind of defining it in the overall shape. So you can do this with a single sphere, for example, and then extruding all the parts or from a single box, or you can just create here like an assembly of different pieces and like bring them all together and then merge them all together. So this is again different ways you can do this blockout phase, but we're gonna expand on these on the following videos. Now you can see that this is a model which from Sketchfab is really beautiful, and you can see it has clothing. Again, it has characterization. It has like some models have scars and other defects which make them more realistic. And we have hair design, apparel design, fashion design, whatever. So this is kind of the last part of everything you would do. So you will go from a generic blockout and then go into like medium details, defining the object, the subject, and then you could continue to add clothing and shoes and ears and other details, eyes, and so on. You can also go more into deep in fashion design and apparel design. With this digital sculpting, you definitely do just this. And you can see here it has really detailed information like seams and textures and so on. You need to study our muscles are placed, our bones are placed, and you can use again Sketchfab or other web services with a lot of models here to study the human muscles and also other characters, other creatures, animals, and so on. So study a lot before you actually start. See how things are made. Also look at this beautiful model here with all the muscles. So you can see the muscles on the shoulder, on the biceps, on the triceps, the abdominals, the pectorals. So if you study these carefully, you will be then more advantaged when you start to sculpt yourself. Now, the last tip is TurboSquid. That's another website where you can download characters, but not only that, 3D objects and things you wanna get and study, and that's basically the your goal to arrive to these details, these level of realism and accuracy. So this will be all for this lesson. If you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel. If you want to support us, you can join as a supporter, and that's it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next lesson.